Good afternoon and welcome to the Stuller Facebook Live session for building relationships with custom design. My name is Heather Kutzman. Welcome to the live session, and we're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're going to give everybody a chance to join us. So thank you for those of you who are already on the live stream, and if you'll give us just a few minutes, we'll get started with our content. Good afternoon, everyone, again, and welcome to the Facebook Live session about building relationships with custom design. My name is Heather Kutzman, and I will be leading the presentation this morning. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to place those in the comment field. And if you have questions, we'll be happy to get back to those and address those during the course of the live session. Good afternoon. Again, you guys, thanks for joining me for the Building Relationships with Custom Design. My name is Heather Kutzman, and I'll be leading the session this afternoon. We will get started in just a few minutes. We're going to give a couple more folks a little time to join us. Hi, Carol and Erica. Thanks for joining us. And as I mentioned, if you have any comments, please just list those in the comment section. Questions, anything you'd like to share. That's a great question. So Erica asked if the session is 1 hour. It's not. We're going to try to limit it to between 20 and 30 minutes. But if there's a lot of questions, it may go a little bit longer than that. All right, guys. Well, we are about 2 minutes after the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and kick things off. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Heather. It's nice to meet all of you. And today on the webinar, the session, live session, we're going to be talking about building relationships with custom design. Just briefly, a little information about my background. My name is Heather, like I said, and I'm the CounterSketch product manager. Unlike maybe some of the other people who've led a Facebook Live session, I'm actually located in Atlanta rather than Lafayette, where Stuller's headquarters are. And I live here with my husband and our 2 cats. So I thought I would make you guys look at the crazy cat lady cat photos today. And this is a recent design that I've created in CounterSketch that I just thought I would share with you. So kind of gives you an idea of my design aesthetic and also some of the things that you can create using CounterSketch. Today on the call, we mentioned we've only got about 20 or 30 minutes, so we're not going to do a terribly deep dive, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you can use custom design to build your customer relationships. So if you think about relationships, there are kind of 4 big pillars that we mainly see, and those are communication, respect, trust, and commonalities. So we're going to look a little bit closer at how CounterSketch and custom design can help you to fortify these key aspects of building those customer relationships. So let's get started. Obviously, if you're communicating with your customer, you're respecting their opinion, and they trust you, you want to be able to give them exactly what they're looking for. So you're listening to them, you're involved in a conversation, you respect the key aspects of the design or the piece of jewelry that are most important to that customer. And again, you're doing a good job at communicating that trust and respect to the customer. So let's talk about how that might translate as you're working on a piece of custom jewelry. Let's say that a customer comes in and they're looking to purchase a ring, and they say, these are the designs that I've got on my Pinterest board. I really love, the V shank maybe of these styles, and I would really like to have something that has a larger bezel set stone. And then I really like how some of these use marquee or round accent shapes around them. So the customer is giving you kind of these details and these ideas of what they're looking for. And as their jeweler, you're kind of working alongside them to listen well, to respect their opinion and what they're looking for and what they're looking to create, but also adding that element of trust by asking them questions. Does your customer work with their hands a lot, right? So some of these styles have really pointy ends to them. And if they're working with their hands a lot, something might get caught. So you want to kind of be sure that you're asking them the right questions to reinforce the fact that you have a lot of jewelry experience and knowledge, and therefore want to take their design and really mold it into something that's going to be wearable for them on their daily in their daily activities. So with CounterSketch, what we're able to do is kind of look at these variety of different designs. None of them maybe is exactly what the customer is looking for, but kind of they give you an idea of what the customer wants. So the next thing that you can do is hop over into your CounterSketch software and open it up. So we've got CounterSketch open, and maybe the first thing I want to do is look for a ring that's in the library that's already very similar to what the customer is requesting. Now, I will tell you that we did recently release a design that is very similar to the ones that I've selected. So you can see this one has kind of that point. It doesn't have the bezel set larger stone. This stone is more prong set, but I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take a look and see what the possibilities are with this particular design. Now, it may not be the design that we go with, but again, by presenting this design or maybe selecting this design out of all the others, I'm already signaling to my customer, I'm listening to what you're saying, and we're looking to find a solution that's going to be the right ring for you. So we're going to open up this design, and once I have it out on the screen, I can start to manipulate the ring and move it around on the screen so that the customer can get a better idea of what the ring looks like. You'll also notice over here on the left that there are aspects of the ring that I can change really quickly just using a click of a button. So we're going to left click here and maybe take away that center gem and that center setting, because again, our customer really wants a larger stone bezel set on this side of the V shank. So it's kind of starting to get in the right vein. The other thing we can do is remove that smaller stone that's on that side. So again, we're getting a little bit closer maybe to what the customer wants. And then we also have the option to remove these diamonds that are in these accent pieces. So we can kind of take those away and start to see if this is more in line with what the customer is looking to purchase. There's some fun details to this design just to point them out to you while we're here. We can change the profile shape of these little leaves and so get some really different looks out of this design pretty quickly. However, based on the conversation that we've had with our customer and maybe their response, it's possibly a good idea to look for another style that might be a better fit for this customer. So rather than go any further with this style, again, based on the customer's reaction, instead we're going to start over, and this time we're going to build the design using freehand parts. So maybe we couldn't find a style in the library that was perfectly suited for what the customer was looking for. So instead, we're going to use our freehand part library to create a design exclusively for this customer. So I'm going to look under my freehand parts, and then within my freehand part category, I'm going to look for a shank that has that V shape to it. So we've got lots and lots of shanks in our CounterSketch freehand parts to choose from. I'm just going to scroll a little bit further down until I find one that has a nice V shank to it. And then we'll open this part up and add it onto our screen. So this will serve as the base for our design. So this is our shank. The next thing that we can do is go in and adjust the finger size. So this is going to be really important when we're working in freehand. We want to be sure that we get the size right when we get started. And there's a couple of things that we can change about this design. So if you look over here on the left side, we can adjust the design width. So if we wanted to make it narrower or deeper, we can do that. We can also adjust the length. So if we wanted this to be maybe a shorter V or a longer V, we can kind of stretch that out. So we've got some options in our overall design. But maybe to get us started, this is a really good place to be. We also heard when we talked to our customer that they were really looking for something that would use a bezel set stone. So we're going to go into our freehand part settings, and we're just going to scroll down until we find a nice bezel setting to use for our center stone. And I'm looking at our comments. Probably you guys are seeing them too. Jessica shared some great information. I love this quote. So Jessica, thanks so much. She said, when my husband creates pieces on screen with our clients, those become the clients that were our lifelong customers and friends. It creates such a bond and a level of trust. So thank you so much for that comment. Jessica, it's always wonderful to hear testimonies like that of customers who are using CounterSketch or have used CounterSketch to design, and how it really does help to reinforce those relationships. So we've got our ring out here on our screen, and we've added our bezel setting. Obviously right now it's kind of cutting into our finger rail, and it's a pretty large stone, right? So we're going to just decrease the size of that center stone, bring it down to maybe closer to like a half a carat rather than a full carat. And then we're going to use our arrow keys on our screen, or our arrow handles on our screen, to kind of drag that stone into position so we can decide exactly where we want it to live. So we'll kind of place it here. If we feel like the height of this center gem is too high, we can come over here and lower the overall gem height using the slider. And this will allow us to bring the height of that gem down just a little bit, so that it sits nicely into that V of our ring. So again, we've kind of got things started here. We've got it kind of laid out on our screen nicely. And the next thing that we're going to do is maybe add some of those marquee and round accents. Maybe our customer does work with their hands a lot, and so we don't want to put a lot of detail out here on the outside of our ring, but instead we want to place it kind of on the inside so that it's a little bit more protected and less likely to get knocked as our customer is going about her daily activities. So let's go back to our freehand parts, click add, and then we'll go into settings. And now that we're in our settings, we can come over to the CPSE 1016, which is just a pretty classic, basic basket setting. And we're going to open this design. Now you'll remember the aspects of the design that were most important to our customer were the marquee and round shapes. So we're going to add in the marquee instead of a round. Now the stone comes out as a default in a round shape, but instead we're going to change it to be marquee shaped because that's the shape that our customer is looking for. And again, we're going to just decrease the size a good bit because we're looking for this to be an accent stone. So we've got that one marquee shaped accent stone out on the screen. And just a reminder, we've got a couple of questions. The software is called CounterSketch. So those comments are coming in. The software that I'm using right now is called CounterSketch, and we'll put a link to where you can get more information about CounterSketch in the comments as well. So we're just going to drag this stone up and maybe to the left a little bit. And again, we want to make it so that it's comfortable to wear for somebody who maybe uses their hands quite a bit during the day in their job, or maybe a busy mom who's managing a household. So we're going to move these pieces around so that they're making good contact and so that they're on the inside of our band so that they're more protected from anything that may come her way. So we've got that started. We've got one on the left side over here. I'm pretty happy with the placement on that one. So rather than having to go back and add a second one out and place it again and go through all of those different steps, I'm just going to left click to mirror this design or this stone to the other side of my ring. And so now I've got an exact duplicate. If I make any changes to the one on the left, they're automatically going to update on the design to the right, and we can start to see this piece come to life. The next thing we're going to do is add another round accent stone over here. So again, she really liked the aspect of having marquee and round accent stones. So we're going to come back into our freehand parts. And again, we can choose any of these different setting options that we have available. We've got quite a few. Some of them are really decorative and creative, so you can add a lot of look very quickly. But for this example, I'm just going to add another bezel set stone to kind of create some cohesion in our overall design. So we've added that round stone out there on our screen. And again, because it's an accent stone, we're just going to make it quite a bit smaller. And then again, we're just going to use our arrows to really quickly and easily drag that stone into position. To fill that space, it looks like I can go a little bit larger, so I will. And now we can kind of see how all of our piece fits together. Since we can rotate our ring around on the screen, it's easy to kind of check our height and make sure everything looks cohesive and kind of part of a single unit, as a ring always should. And you can see that I've got these little handles out on my screen right now, and they're a little distracting, if we're honest, all these blue dots and arrows. So if that's distracting to your customer, you can left click to remove those and make sure that your customer can see the design kind of in its purest form. Keep in mind that throughout this process, you're wanting to check in with your customer, make sure that you're happy with they're happy with the overall look of the ring and the way that it's developing. You can always make adjustments to the materials that you're using in the ring as well. So for example, if the customer would like to add maybe a hint of rose gold to the design, we can select a secondary metal color and it's going to update on our screen. Maybe for our center stone, rather than showing it in a secondary metal, we want to leave it in the primary metal. Sorry about that. And if that's the case, then we're just going to switch it over to a different color. So it's really simple to kind of make those types of changes using your handles over here on the left. Another fun thing to do is to let your customers see it on a design try-on hand, right? So we are looking at it fairly closely on a screen. Sometimes the details get really large and it's difficult to kind of translate what this ring is going to look like if it were on someone's finger. So we have our design try-on hand, which allows you to change the person's skin tone, their nail polish color, and then take a look at how that ring would look on their finger. So this is really helpful in kind of translating what the customer is seeing on the screen into what the finished product will look like. So this is, again, a really helpful tool in helping the customer to feel comfortable and be sure that you're kind of respecting their feelings, that the scale is large enough, and that you're communicating with them well. So again, all about building that relationship. Now that you've got the design laid out on the screen, maybe the customer wants to play with some of the accent gem colors. So it's really easy using our Any Gem, Any Color tool to come down here and left click. And then we can go in and select maybe a sapphire. Then we can left click on the gems that we want to be that color and left click on Apply. And now you can kind of see how that design might look differently if you were to use sapphires rather than diamonds as those accent stone options. If we're happy with that, we can click Done. Or if it's not quite the look that the customer thought they would have, you can click Clear and it'll take those stone options away, and then we can go back. finally, a good way to let your customer really see what this finished piece is going to look like is by doing a render. So we can zoom in on our ring, get it a little bit larger, and then click on render. Render again is going to give you a more photorealistic picture of what the finished design would actually look like. So instead of kind of the claymation version that we have here, which is really helpful when you're designing because you're not kind of distracted by all the flash of diamonds, in our render, we're going to get to see kind of the true beauty of what this finished product would look like. Again, helping the customer to understand what the finished piece would be so they feel comfortable making the commitment to decide to make the purchase. All right. So this is kind of again, just a simple run through of how you can use customization to really help to build that relationship with your customer when you're working with them one-on-one to kind of help build respect, encourage communication, and kind of get those conversation lines flowing so that you're really working together in a partnership to design their ideal piece of jewelry. So that's one example. I wanted to hop back over into PowerPoint for just a moment, and we're going to take a closer look at another way that you can use CounterSketch to help build trust with your customers. And this is all about commonalities. So I'm sure as jewelers, most of you are probably very familiar with merchandising. Merchandising is basically just segmenting a category of something. In our case, usually that category is jewelry, and it's for the specific purpose of selling that product or service. And a really important aspect of being a great merchandiser is considering the buying habits and taste of the market that you're in. With CounterSketch, we know that this is important. Our current library has over 2,500 styles to choose from. And if you know your market well, we've given you a new tool called Curated Collections, which allows you to kind of merchandise this very large library that we have so that you can focus on those styles that you know are going to be most relevant to your customers. So we're going to quickly do kind of a small example of creating one of these curated collections and how you can start to truly customize your CounterSketch software so that you can show that your customers that you're in tune with what they're looking for and that you're able to provide that really quickly for them. So let's again hop back over into our CounterSketch. I'm going to start a new session. Actually, let me go ahead and save what we've worked on here. So if at any point in the process I want to save anything that I'm working on with my customer to come back to later, all I need to do is save a portfolio, and then it's going to have this for me to come back to at a later date. Then I'm going to start a new session. And what I'm hoping to do is select a group of styles, so kind of merchandise, the existing CounterSketch library, to focus on styles that I've been selling a lot of recently. So I'm going to start with all of my ring designs, and I'm going to specifically look to create a collection of French set halo rings. So I'm going to use my design elements to sort and only show French set options. And it's going to bring up all of the styles in my library that are French set. Now specifically, I want to focus on halo French set rings. So I'm going to left click to select these styles that are French set halos. As I selected those styles, they kind of all added themselves to this tray down at the bottom. So it's really easy for me to kind of look them over and compare all of the styles that are there. From here, I'm going to add these marked designs to a portfolio. Once that portfolio is created, so similar to how we created the portfolio before, I'm going to open it up, and I'm just going to rename this portfolio French Set Halos. So let's type in here. and we're going to rename it. Oh, sorry, I've already got one named that. Let me rename this. French Set Halos 2020. How about that? All right, so we've got our French Set Halos created, and now we're just going to close that dialog box. And we're going to go to our start screen. So let's go back to our very beginning. As you can see here, we've merchandised some groups of jewelry already, but we're happy for you to create your own collections. So to do that, we're just going to look in our preferences and select the option to edit the design tiles. Once we're in our design tiles, we can adjust the sizes of these tiles, so make them smaller or larger, or we can completely remove those tiles if we want to, if maybe that's not a category of jewelry that we sell often. From here, we can add a new custom tile, so it brings that new tile out onto our screen. And we want to tell this tile what specifically we would like for it to link to. So I'm going to left click on that link option, and I'm going to tell it to link to an existing CounterSketch portfolio. Which portfolio do we want it to link to? We want it to link to our French Set Halos 2020 collection. And I can rename this tile anything that I'd like. So maybe instead I just say French Set instead of French Set Halos, and that's fine. And then we'll click Submit. And now you can see that it gives us the name of that collection down here in the lower right. The next thing that I want to do is add a photo to this tile. So it's really obvious to me and my employees what category of product lives in or under this tile. So I'm going to left click on Add a Photo, and then I can browse on my computer to find any image that I'd like to use. As you can see, we do provide you some default images that are part of the library already, but I can go into my personal pictures and actually find a render that I have already created of one of these French Set halos. It's going to add that image out onto my tile, and then I'm just going to click Save. Once I click Save, I can kind of see how my finished screen is going to look. I have my render of a French Set halo with the title French Set for this tile, and then I can left click to save my changes. So now I have a new start screen that's been personalized and kind of updated to reflect my market. And now I can left click on French Set, and it's going to bring me to those specific styles that are part of that French Set Halo collection that I created. If you notice up here in the upper left, it has a smaller kind of thumbnail of that image that we added for our tile. And over the center, it says French Set, which is exactly what we named this collection. So again, I hope in our brief time together, we were able to talk a little bit about how custom jewelry can really help you to build those relationships with your customers so that you're able to communicate with them well, you're able to convey trust and respect for your customer, and you're also able to show commonalities between what you're selling and what your customers are looking to purchase to kind of show that you're truly kind of relevant and aware of what's going on in your market and in the jewelry space. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been really great. This is my first Facebook Live, so thanks guys for joining and your patience. Are there any other questions? I know we had a couple of questions pop up, and I think all of those have been addressed, but are there any other questions about CounterSketch or how you can use custom design to really help to build those relationships with your customers? And just as a reminder, it looks like this is a fairly common question. So the software that we used today was called CounterSketch, and that is what we were using to do all of the custom design. Any other questions before we sign off? All right. Well, again, thank you everyone so much for joining us for the Facebook Live session. Thank you for those of you who had comments to share and questions to answer. If you have any other questions, like I said, feel free to send them in, and we will look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks so much.